Hey everyone, it is Martin Schneider here, VP and Principal Analyst at Constellation, covering all kinds of cool growth and revenue tech.
And I'm Larry Dignan, Editor-in-Chief of Constellation Insights, and we're your co-hosts for Constellation Research TV episode 114.
114, nice.
And we're going to riff on some of the news in enterprise tech, and we're going to cover a bunch of CEO happenings and some buyouts and all sorts of good stuff. So let's get started. Big thing this week was Oracle has a new CEO. As Safra Catz steps down to the executive chair, and Clay Magouyrk, who is in charge of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, he becomes co-CEO with Mike Cecilia, who is in charge of Oracle Industries. So this is probably a bigger deal than I think has been initially expected by the market. My read on this is, Safra Catz she's been at Oracle for a long time. She'll be executive chair, so technically she's not going anywhere, much like Larry Ellison was. What's different here is I always viewed Safra to be the grown-up in the room. She was the one who did the discipline. Right. She was the one who orchestrated, she was CEO and CFO. Like, let's just wrap your head around how hard that is. And she's the one that, kind of reined in Larry and sort of, instilled discipline. And this thing's operating like a, mean machine right now. And so it's a good time to do that handoff. But, Safra Catz in 2014, she became the co-CEO with Mark Hurd. And then 2019, she was the sole CEO, and now we're back to this co-CEO arrangement.
Yeah,
and it's interesting because it just shows how much cloud infrastructure is, the focus of the company now.
Yeah, totally. Getting, bringing OCI to the fore there. It makes sense. It's like for the company, I think it makes sense, but as the selfish side of me of caring so much about apps and the business, right, and the business suite and where that's come into fusion, I just wonder about that, because there has been a significant amount of leadership change even in the lower ranks that hasn't been as publicized. So this kind of reorganization in this of leadership is interesting, because it's going to see where Oracle goes outside of cloud infrastructure and feeding AI compute, right? And where it others, a lot of money coming in for that, right? And I get that. That's where that's coming. That's why the stock is seeing such a big boost right now. But they do a lot of other things, and they do a lot of other things well. And I think they haven't, I don't want to say advertised that as well, but they haven't really gone to market with some of the other things as effectively as I think they could have. And I just hope they don't get further pushed down with these moves, because it would be a shame, because they do, database up to apps and, outside of infrastructure would be a shame to let that kind of lose any momentum, because it doesn't get a lot of headlines, but it's still doing really well for them. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, I think what was interesting to me was, the app part of the equation is really taking a back seat, but yet the way they talk about it, they really see it as they're like, look, we're the one of the few cloud providers that actually do software too. So they're really talking this integrated stack, and the apps benefit from the AI, and the Mike Cecilia guy, he's focused on industries and stuff like that, which I think is a good route to go for Oracle. He oversaw the rewrite of Cerner, which is kind of interesting in itself. So, it's just going to be interesting to watch, because these co-CEO arrangements, I've seen them work a few times, and I've seen them not work a few times.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always interesting to watch too, that dynamic.
Yep. Liken it to when with Jim and Michael Scott were co-managers of The Office on that show, right?
Exactly.
How do you delineate between big picture and tactical day-to-day when you talk about these CEO remits, right?
Right, and it is going to make Oracle AI world formerly Cloud World, which formerly it was something
Open
else.
world for a minute. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it'll make that more interesting too. So
Yeah.
speaking of conferences, next 2 months we're all out and about all over the places.
Yeah.
One of the big themes I highlighted in my newsletter was just this idea that agentic AI is going to be, the UI. Like the Workday conference was kind of telling because they bought a company that's basically focused on, basically putting an agentic AI overlay over top existing software and systems.
Yep.
I think everybody's going to go that way. So I think by November we'll be like, what dashboard, what UI? It's all going to be agentifying every damn thing.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to watch.
It is. I mean, like ServiceNow made a quiet move with MoveWorks around that, right? And when you and that it kind of leads into that as well. But there's a few companies like will one of these conferences talk about maybe UiPath getting sucked into one of the, because you look at Salesforce has interesting alternative UI possibilities, and Slack was one of them, but it never really kind of turned into that, right?
Right.
Where you've got this, well, where's the more usable front end where the data just through AI and other things just kind of comes to you rather than you having to go and log in and do all that. Like Microsoft's done some interesting things with their own Copilot stuff to create dynamic UI. It's assistants and research assistants create visualizations and dashboards on the fly based on the context. Really cool stuff. Dreamforce coming up. What is Salesforce's story going to be there, right? I mean, that's what, because that's one of the companies that hasn't yet made an acquisition and hasn't really had an answer for that yet. You're starting to see even coming back from, and I'll talk more about HubSpot later, but even HubSpot's recent inbound conference talking about how you can leverage a lot of their much more composable tools and agentic tools to put together for a small or mid-sized business a fully kind of functional CRM, at least to get started and to do some really cool things for like nothing, like almost nothing, right? So we are seeing that come together. I mean, I talked about it in my report last year. Composability and AI are shaping CRM's future, but I would say that could be apps, right? I just happen to cover CRM. Could just be application software's future, right? So where composability and agentic are coming together, is you're absolutely right. Is the UI is apps are not where the action happens anymore in the traditional sense.
And the final news item worth yapping about is Pros. Which was acquired by Thoma Bravo for $1.4 billion.
Good.
Basically, if you're a software company worth, $2 billion or less, you'll probably be bought by them. They're just buying up every damn thing at this point and taking it private. So what's this mean, Martin?
Well, I mean, I've had my experience with private equity, and I'll keep most of my opinions to myself around what that means for the operations. But when you look at Pros, and when you look at where they played, and what was interesting is they were kind of like that secret. I would ask people who probably should have been using Pros if they were using them inside their pricing optimization, CPQ, other things around ERP and around CRM. A lot of companies hadn't even heard of them when I talked to some of our end users that are larger enterprises who have the need for dynamic pricing. Pros does very well in let's call it certain B2C use cases, hospitality and airline. When you say like, what's a ticket to blank cost? Well, no one really knows because that gets optimized every time by Pros, right? And that's really cool, right? And they do some really good CPQ, and they've got a lot of other cool things. Now, for Pros, you hope it doesn't go in the situation where they get lost, right? You don't want to go into a PE black hole, because they're doing some very interesting things, and adding AI and agentic AI to their mix really was a really cool future. Now we hope this includes funding to actually bring them a little more into the limelight a little bit, right? Now, does that potentially mean mixing and matching? Like you said, Thoma Bravo's got a big application portfolio, but they also have Coupa. They've got they've got Conga. They've got applications that are very adjacent, if not overlapping, with Pros. So is there going to be some kind of like CPQ pricing powerhouse created? I don't know what the long game is, but there's potential there, and at least to learn from each other and to do some interesting things. So Thoma Bravo's their apps portfolio is interesting, especially around that pricing, CPQ, rev opsy kind of stuff, where I'm really interested in how these guys are they going to build this kind of go-to-market tech stack layer of like revenue intelligence, pricing intelligence, CPQ, and have that be this really killer AI-powered SaaS tool. I don't know, but there's potential there. So it'd be interesting to see how they analyze the portfolio, see what Prose's upside was going forward as a standalone. There's a lot of really very interesting and groundbreaking plays that can be done there, given what they've acquired to date.
Yeah, they definitely have all the parts laying around.
Yeah.
So, and that's all we have for the news this week. But stay tuned for my interview with Jeito's Alex Franco. He's a Supernova Award finalist, and then we'll walk through Martin's Pulse report and talk HubSpot. Hi, I'm Larry Dignan with Constellation Insights, and we're here with Supernova finalist Alex Franco. He is the Chief Risk and Technology Officer at Jeito. Hi, Alex. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Larry. Thanks for this opportunity here to explain a little more about Jeito, our case here in Brazil.
Yeah, so let's just start from the top. What does Jeito do?
Yeah, Jeito is a fintech here in Brazil. We were founded in 2014. Basically, our mission is to democratize access to the credit. Our focus is mostly on the underserved in Brazil. Just to have an idea, we have approximately 80 million Brazilians on this situation. In Brazil, we call them as class C, D, and E. But usually population that earns low income, that has a lot of difficulty to get access to credit in Brazil. And since 2014, Jeito has been working basically on AI and alternative data to give access to credit, to good credit for this population here in Brazil. So nowadays, just to give some figures, nowadays we have approximately 13 million customers already in our database. We have already it's disbursed approximately 3 billion reais, is almost $500 million on credit in our history. And, we have started from the credit, but now as we have more than 13 million customers in our database, we are also expanding to new credit lines and also services. So basically, as a good fintech, we have started with a basic product that we have tested, we have changed something in the market, and now based on being very simple, very responsible, and focus on our purpose that is mostly on credit inclusion, we are now looking forward to expand our portfolio.
So what kind of alternative data sets do you look at?
Yeah, basically from the beginning, we have started on cell phone data. And on top of that, we have also expanded to have more data on the behavior of the customer with us. So during this process, we have brought more than approximately 2,000 data points on the life cycle of the customer with us, and we create some figures. So we have a very strong feature storing process to create more alternative features to put inside as a part of our credit policy.
So what problem were you trying to solve? Was it faster decision making, or how did you look at it in terms of what you were trying to do?
Yeah, I think that basically we are facing three big problems here in Brazil. First is the access to a good credit line. This population usually they don't have a good approval rate here in Brazil. First of all, we must be very intelligent on this process to be able to give a good credit. But on top of that, it's very important that we have be responsible for not to have this customer with a very high indebtedness that will not allow these customers to keep paying us. So this is basically one of the main points that we have here. As a second step, this population usually their process here in Brazil, their experience in Brazil with other banks, with other institutions, is that they need to approve the credit, they go through a very long process that takes like 1 day sometimes. They fulfill a lot of data, a lot of information as part of the credit decision for these companies. And after 1 day, most of the time, they just receive a no. They don't get access to the credit. So from the beginning, the second point that Jeito has always worked was it needs to be very simple for the customers. So basically nowadays, the customers just put two information, basically the cell phone and their physical ID. With this information, we can complete with all the alternative data, the cell phone data, the bureau data, we can get the additional information. And after only 2 minutes, we can go back to this customer with a 3 times more approval rate than the market. So basically, we are approving more with a better experience and very fast for this customer. And as a third challenge that we have here is the experience. Usually, when we think, even after this customer has access to the credit, every time this customer, they have a very difficult economic situation. So sometimes they will not be able to pay their debt. So they have a challenge in a month, for example, for not to receive their salary or not to be able to work. Usually they work selling products, or they are informal employees, and they don't get the salary, and sometimes they will not be able to pay. So the third challenge is to understand the life cycle, the financial life cycle. How does the life of this customer works, so that we can understand and not just go with collections and push for payment. We try really to understand the customer and give them also, after they are a customer, a better experience where we are trying to understand and be a very strong partner for lifetime with this customer. So mainly these 3 big challenges.
So what was the ROI on this project?
Yeah, the ROI in this project was basically, we were making decisions on the credit cycle manually or using, spreadsheets and, internal tech process. Basically, what we did here, we have implemented Provenir, our credit decisioning engine. This made us to be able to accelerate a lot our process to take decisions very faster. Just to have an idea, combining more data and alternative data in a very fast way, we were able to improve by 10% our approval rates. Our default rates has reduced approximately 30%. Our loan is growing month after month. Since last year, we are growing our portfolio. We probably are going to grow by 70% our portfolio this year. And the customer base has doubled since last year. So from a financial standpoint, it's paying the debt. We are being able to have a net interest margin very positive on our side with this growth and reducing the investments on data and on the data sets. On the operational side, we are having a lot less tech challenge, a lot less problems with fraud prevention and risk control. And on top of that, I think we as a company that's always focused on being on have our purpose of being able to have good impact on the market. For sure we should look on our social ROI. We are having more and more customers that they are not being able to get affordable credit in the market, and now they have access for that. So financial inclusion is one of the main OKRs we have here in the company, and we are being able to do this at scale.
All righty, thanks for joining us, and congrats on being a Supernova finalist.
Thanks, Larry.
Hey everyone, it's Martin Schneider with Constellation again. Wanted to talk really quickly about a new Pulse report that I just published on HubSpot. Now, this Pulse report is on HubSpot, and I do want to really quickly talk about the Pulse report, because if you're in apps, if you're in CRM, if you're a growth leader, you kind of got to look at what HubSpot's been up to lately, right? They have been really active bringing new AI agents to the fore. They've also been working on, really creating a situation for small and mid-sized businesses that kind of changes the game a little bit, right? They've got this concept called Smart CRM, which includes data unification, workflows, the ability to make, custom objects and do all these things where you can actually just buy a single user of that, combine it with one of their free instances across sales, marketing, and service, and theoretically start to model a completely functional CRM system that can be, as many users as you want. If you start using the marketing, you only pay for the context that you use, and really start to get going for an incredibly low price and low cost of entry, right? Now, what does that mean? Because this is really where I think the ramifications of what I talk about in this Pulse report are interesting. And I'm going to talk about some other players in a second, right? Because now, when we were talking about the age of AI, and Ray talks about this, and I've been talking about this, where not just composability and agentic AI, but really that exponential productivity that you get, which also means, exponential productivity can also mean exponential value, right? So for like 90% lower cost, you can get a fully functional CRM system going, where in the past you had to pay hundreds of dollars per user per month in the old SaaS world, right? So when you start to look at how this works, AI consumption is going to be where a lot of these CRM vendors and these AI native and AI exponential startups are going to start making their revenue. Now, that's a good thing, because hopefully if all you're paying for are the AI insights and a lot of the agentic flows, that should be limiting the amount of humans you need to hire, which again saves some costs, but more importantly is driving better business outcomes, which is value that you should be happy to pay for, right? We're getting towards that. But from the kind of nuts and bolts of it today, there are incredible cost savings opportunities for businesses using tools like Zoho, HubSpot, Creatio, because these guys are highly composable, where you can kind of just grab what you need, leverage some agentic flows, and get very limited, cost on your seat licenses, and start to really build a fully functional kind of cross the company end-to-end CRM application set for, with HubSpot, you can get started for like $70 a month. Like that's it, not per user. I mean, you can add some additional users, but you can start with that, what they call a core user, hook it to a free thing, and one of the free instances, and actually start running, configuring users, doing workflows, doing all this really cool stuff, unifying your data so that you can power the AI agents. Again, you're going to pay for consumption on the agents, but hopefully they're either replacing or hypercharging human activities and delivering value, and that's worth it, right? But at the end of the day, we're really starting to see the beginning of a revolution in how we price and package, starting with CRM, and a lot of other software is going to follow suit. How we package the software and where we're expecting to see value. So really interesting, right? Where, CRM, for example, used to be this system of record and a place that we kind of like store data in. With agentic AI and other things, it's actually going from a system of record to a system of action, right? Of actually doing things, providing value. We're not, 100% there across the board, and expectations need to be kind of buffered and tethered a bit. But really, what we're seeing is the start of some big changes. HubSpot, I think, gets it. My Pulse report talks about that and goes into that. But throughout the rest of this year, I'm going to be writing a lot and talking a lot about this big sea change that I'm seeing in how we pay for and how we deploy and manage CRM and other related software tools. And it's kind of changing the game. And hopefully it's going to result in lower operating costs, but higher value received, which is really great. So check out that Pulse report. It's available on ConstellationR.com. You can quickly do a quick search for probably my name and HubSpot and find it. And if you have any other questions, I'm easy to find, to reach out for to learn a bit more. Thanks a lot. All right, well, that is a wrap on episode 114 of CRTV. Watch for our next episode in 2 weeks.
That's right. Co-host Holger Mueller and Liz Miller will bring you episode 115 of CRTV. In the meantime, follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter at ConstellationR and the hashtag CRTV show.
Nice. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to Constellation Research on YouTube. And also go to our website, constellationnr.com, and subscribe if you're not already to the Insights. Larry's always putting out really cogent and insightful responses to all the latest news in tech. He's faster even than ChatGPT, we say inside. You've got, if something's happening, Larry's on top of it. So make sure you're subscribed to the Insights, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks, everyone.